This is Brooklyn Franklin and Evan Smock with Linton-Stockton Student Press, and we're here with
Troy Jerrell, Chief of Police with the Linton Police Department.
It was so nice for you to be able to take some time and be able to talk to us today.
Oh, not a problem. I loved it.
When did you first realize you wanted to become a police officer?
Well, funny story. I figured that if you couldn't beat them, then join them. So I wasn't doing very good at beating them. I got a couple citations for silly things like not having my headlights on when I was supposed to. So after I received a couple of tickets and I got to know a couple of the officers, I thought, you know, that's pretty neat, and I wouldn't mind being one myself. And I started riding around with some of the officers, and once I got to know them and see the other side of what the police do, I got very entangled in that. It became, I couldn't get enough of it. Kind of got addicted to it. I was riding with them all the time. All my free days off, I was riding with them. And then a position come open as a dispatcher, and that's not exactly where I wanted to be, but that was a step in the direction where I wanted to be. And so I took that job, and then when a police officer position came open, I took that one. So,
Was it originally your plan to become promoted to police chief?
I would have never dreamt in a million years that I would have been police chief. I started back in 1994, and I found myself in Vincennes University in conservation law enforcement. That was my what I thought I wanted to do at the time, was be a conservation officer. But when I got riding around with the Linton Police, and I seen how active we were and how you can make a difference right here in your own community. And like I mentioned before, I just kind of fell in love with the job. I couldn't get enough of it. I started out as a patrolman, had a lot of fun and working that position. Detective position came open, and I took that one. And I never would have believed that once I was detective here, that would have led into being police chief. But that's what's happened, and I've been doing it now for over 11 years and still going. So.
How did it feel to be promoted as police chief?
It was kind of it was a very proud moment for me. You know, we all have goals and things that we set in our life and accomplishments that you want to do. And then for those people who, throughout the years when you're younger, and they kind of give you the attitude like, oh, you know, he'll never do nothing, you know, with his life. And so had a rash of emotions. You know, my mother was there, who had helped put me through college and who had backed me up through all them years. And so to have her there and me sworn in as police chief was a very emotional and exciting, you know, time for me. So a lot of emotions going through at the time that I was sworn in as chief of police, so as you can imagine. So,
Were there any memories that kind of stuck with you through while you were an officer?
Memories like what?
Like maybe funny things, just the things that stuck with you, like, I don't know.
Oh gosh, we always joke up here that, you know, if we could write a book, I don't know that, you know, any one particular one stands out, you know, over the other, but lots of things have happened and stuff over the years, from, you know, pursuing people who were running from you in vehicles to on foot, and then, you know, everyone looks at police like, you know, we're held to this higher standard, which we should be, but that nothing bad ever happens to you in that process, and that's the, you know, farthest thing from the truth there is. You know, from chasing someone on foot and you get tripped up on your own feet and fall or jump across the ditch or get hit in the chest by a clothesline or something as you're running in the middle of the night you never seen coming. All those things, you know, happen to us that we have to watch out for, just like anybody else, you know, does. We're not immune to those things, you know, whatsoever. Simple things of having an officer and reminding them when they first start to make sure that their vehicle's in park when they get out to approach a car, because we've had instances where officers would get out to write a citation to someone and jump out of their car because they were in a hurry. And when they would get out of the car was still in gear when takeoff rolling on them. So, yeah, imagine, I mean, that's not good for anybody, you know. So, but there's a lot of those things that one would call bloopers, you know, over the years that we look back and we talk about and we laugh about. And, oh, do you remember when this happened? And yeah, and then that starts into another story. And so lots of things. I could go on for a while. So.
If you were to be in any other occupation other than being part of the police department, what job do you think you'd be part of?
Well, I tell you what, another reason I got into law enforcement is because I love the outdoors. And my first schooling was in auto mechanics, and that was a really good training for me because it made me realize what I didn't want to do. And instead of pursuing a career in college in that, I took Twin Rivers while I was in school in auto mechanics. And although I enjoy vehicles and I enjoy working on them, the idea of hanging underneath a vehicle for 8 or 10 hours a day and dirt and grease falling in your eyes and all that stuff just wasn't something I really, you know, enjoyed doing. But it would definitely be something outdoors, you know, working outside in. I love just, you know, whether it's equipment, you know, live on a farm, so I like operating equipment and that type of thing on my time off. So, but it would have to be involved, whatever that would be, would have me outside. So.
How does being the rookie on the department compare to being the chief?
Oh, big difference. I tell all the new guys when they come in to this department, police officers are typically your Class A personalities. They're your go-getters, your leaders, those type of people. And so with that comes a lot of testosterone, so to speak. And so if you're a new guy and you come on the department, you really need to be thick-skinned on not just this department, but any department, because if you make a mistake and the other guys hear about it, and they will hear about it, you're going to hear about that mistake for the rest of your career. And it's all in good fun and it's all razzing, but if you're a type of person who can't handle that, then you're going to have some problems, and it's going to be problematic for you. As the chief, I get to be the one on the other end of it, and so they might harass me, but it's at a limited and a lower amount than they do one another. So big difference in, not just in that, but in a lot of things. Just, you know, as a rookie, when you come on, you don't even know what you don't know yet type thing. Now that I've been doing this 22 years, I still get surprised, don't get me wrong. Things will still happen to this day that I think I never seen that coming. But as a rookie, those things happen more often to you than after you get 22 years on. So.
Thank you. Your department investigates many different cases every day. What are some of the most interesting you've been involved with?
Interesting. I tell you, probably some of the toughest cases I work is the homicides and things of that nature. As a detective, I was involved in several different homicide investigations that we had throughout the years as I was a detective here. Those are pretty rough. The thing that gets me as a police officer, and before I was ever a police officer, I think that most of your best policemen anyway always have the feeling to help those who can't help themselves very well. I think and I believe that if that is not in you and in your person and persona who you are, then you're not going to be a very good police officer in my opinion. And so when you see some of the cruel things that people do to one another or do to children, those are the ones that bother you at your core at the most, because is total opposite of the other end of perspective of where you are as a person. And to have to communicate with someone and sit down and talk to someone about that and why they done that is very challenging, not on a personal level, but a professional level. But that's the bad stuff. Now, the good stuff, there's been many times where I've been able to help people in need and make differences in people's lives that maybe I didn't even realize at the time and didn't realize till years later. And a prime example was a young man who got a hold of me a few years ago, and I had worked a case involving him, and it was just a small case. He got in some trouble with some checks. It was nothing where he hurt anybody or anything. But the way I had dealt with him and through that case had made him go on. I didn't even know at the time. He changed his life around and was bound and determined to be a police officer himself, and ended up becoming a police officer in Terre Haute, and later tracked me down several years later and said, "Hey, I want to tell you, you have no idea about this, but this is how you affected me in my life, and I just wanted to tell you I appreciate that very much." And so that meant a lot to me, as a person that if we save a cat out of a tree, it's immediate gratification. You know that you helped someone right then. What it made me realize is how many other times in the past had I dealt with someone and made a difference in their life, but didn't even actually realize it. And that was just, that has just been a blessing on a lot of different levels for me personally, to give back to the kids and to see the kids' faces and bring us, the community and the police together, and let them realize that we are people just like everyone else. We have a job to do, no different than the guys on the trash truck cleaning the trash up from the city, in the evening, to someone keeping the lights on. We are here as a service for the city, no different than anybody else, or the guy taking my money at the gas station or grocery store. So we all play a part in this community in Rowe. Ours just happens to be, the police. So.
Wow. You did kind of mention this a little bit in the last answer, but what do you think are some of the most dangerous aspects of a law enforcement in a rural community?
I tell everyone, we have the same things that happen here in Linton typically, just not as much of it. So we don't have the quantity. We still have this, we see heroin here, unfortunately. We see heroin overdoses here, unfortunately. Of course, methamphetamine, everyone's heard of that. All the other cases that the larger cities operate and work, we have the same stuff right here in the city. And what we have to be careful, especially in a small community, is because we have a tendency, and even myself included, have a tendency to let our guards down more often than what we should. Just because, we have the small city, town, community feeling. But what we need to realize, my officers need to realize, is that we need to keep our guards up just like everybody else does, because there's been many a times in my career that I've been surprised that someone who I wouldn't think would do something did do something. So those things still happen here, and unfortunately, in fact, we just got through coming back from Washington. Fred Cromwell, who was a police officer here, had moved from the fire department, had only been here less than a week and got killed, in the line of duty. So it can and unfortunately does happen here. So,
What do you think some of the differences would be as a police officer between a rural community and an urban community?
In a rural community like ours, again, it's not like Andy Griffith, if you know who I'm talking about, okay? But you have the small, again, hometown community. You look, everybody you see, or you meet, or maybe when you're off duty, you see them in the grocery store. Maybe someone you dealt with last night while you're working, you now run across in a gas station or a grocery store. So you're working in with these people and in the community. In the larger cities like Indianapolis, I relate it more almost to, in some portions in the really rough areas, it's almost like a war zone. Things are going off, the people in the communities will shoot out all the street lights as soon as they fix them, so their neighborhoods stay dark and nobody can see what's going on in there. They will give like little hoot calls when a police officer drives into the neighborhood to let everybody else in the neighborhood know that a police officer is driving through that neighborhood. So if they're doing anything wrong, to have a heads up. Luckily, we don't have that type of stuff here in our community. So big difference. More on a personal level here in this area than would be an urban area that's much larger than us. So.
What makes you say that we have the best department comparable to our size in the state?
I believe that for a lot of instances. My guys and gals' work ethics are, in my opinion, are second to none to nobody's. When we had the Wolf investigation going on at the time, I had to force some of the guys to go home and get a couple hours sleep so they could come back and work again later. And seeing that firsthand, really made a believer out of me that not only just in that case, they have done it time and time again. They were practically sleeping up here during that case and working on that case nonstop, not focused on anything else but that case. Everything in their personal lives got put on hold. I'm a firm believer that I don't care how smart you are, if you don't have a good work ethic, you'll never go anywhere. You have to have a good work ethic, and all my guys are very self-motivated. They all feel that what they do is important in one way or another, and they take that very seriously. And we get more things done through that alone than any department twice our size. Because where their guys will quit at 8 o'clock, my guys are going to keep trucking until 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and maybe then more. And that's what makes us different from departments larger than us. It's not a job here with my guys. It's a career. It's a way of life. Their families know it. My family knows it. When something happens, they know that, well, no matter what we're doing, as long as we're around, not like if we're on vacation in California, but if we're around, no matter what we're doing, and something important happens, I'm packing my bags and heading up to the police department. So.
Sound effects. Okay. What is one of the most important things that a police officer can do for his/her community?
Important thing that he can do for his what?
Community.
For as a police officer? I think just being a good example, not only for the adults but the children in the community, because the children are going to be the adults and the ones running the community, whether we believe it or not or we like it or not. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. You folks are going to be taking our place. We're going to be retiring, and you guys are going to be coming up and stepping in our shoes. And I think that leaving a good example to our community and what we do in the whole process, whether it's personally or professionally, I think is very important, because if a child gets bad view of police because of how we dealt with them when they were younger, then they're not going to be very pro-police when they get older. In fact, they may even be anti-police. So then we're creating enemies for ourselves. You see what I'm saying? So it's only in our best interest to be the best role models and the best people we can be to our children and the adults as well. Because like I tell the officers, the people you deal with today may be the ones you're asking help from tomorrow. So that would be the most important, I would think.
You and your department have been instrumental in Greene County's National Night Out. Why is this event important for our community? Just like I said, the whole idea of National Night Out is to bring the police and the community together. Too often we have the separation that they're the police, we're the people,
and that's totally false. We're all the community. Me as a police officer, either on or off duty, is just much as part of the community as anybody else. If we can all pull together and work things together, and people be our eyes and ears out there when things are happening and report that to us. And again, the better relationship we have with the community, and some of that comes with trust, the much more effective we're going to be as the police versus us versus them type scenario or mindset. And, unfortunately, especially when it comes to children, again, too often we are called upon in the presence of children who don't have a full understanding of what's going on. And all they understand when they're 4 or 5 or 3 years old is that a police officer came and took my dad out of the home. What they don't understand or realize or accept is that maybe dad was beating on mom, or maybe dad was wanted on a warrant for theft, or they don't understand or comprehend that when they're younger. So all they see is police is taking someone out of their home. They hear mom and dad say, you better be good or I'm going to call the police on you, and they're going to cuff you and arrest you and lock you away in a jail somewhere, to stopping mom or dad and writing maybe mom or dad a citation. So just by the nature of us doing our job, it is real easy for children and regular people to get a poor light on us. So I think the more we do like National Night Out, and the more we bring them closer to us and not push them away, the more effective we are going to be as a police officer, as a police department, as a community in home. So.
Have you seen any changes working as chief under Mayor Jones' administration versus Mayor Wilkes' administration?
Yes, there's. I've actually been with 3 mayors now, including Patty Jones. Mayors are people too, and they have their own priorities. Tom Jones, when he came in, he had his priorities and things that he wanted to get done and accomplished while he was mayor. When Mr. Wilkes came in as mayor, he had his own set of agendas and things that he wanted to improve upon and do better or make better in the community as well. So each person that comes in as mayor, and Patty as well, the time she was here. So each person who comes in as mayor are different people, and they'll have different focuses and different agendas and things of that nature that they want to focus on in their term. A lot like we see what's going on nationally, now that's got a lot of people talking about and in an uproar and things. Mayors are no different. They have their goals when they come in and get elected, or maybe things that they campaign on that they want to get accomplished that's probably going to be different than the person in front of them. And then it's my job just to learn and understand what those are and be that go-between between the police and the mayor, and let them know, okay, here's what we can do and here's what we cannot do, okay? And because they don't always understand that because they're civilians. I mean, they've typically not been through a police academy, not been trained on Indiana law, things of that nature, where we have. So as part of my job as a chief of police is to inform them when they're saying, okay, we want to, I want to do something here or in this area. What can we do? What are my options? What I can't do? And that's my job to inform them of that.
Where do you see the LPD in 10 years?
Well, I would hope that we would grow and get at least our 2 officers back that we had to lay off a couple years ago. So that would be, one goal, of mine. 10 years from now, I would like to think that National Night Out is still going and one of the largest events in the county, not just the city. I would like to see Of course, we could always use better equipment and things of that nature, and newer equipment. We lack in some of those areas, and it's all due to the almighty dollar and how much funding you have. And I would like to see us have more and better equipment, but all that's going to come only if we have jobs and things of that nature here in the city. And so I think we need to focus on having jobs and bringing those places here in the community, because without jobs we have no incomes, and without no incomes then we have no money to spend for anything, and we'll only get smaller. So we really need, as a city as a whole, to do some of the things that we've been doing and continue to make Linton a better place, not only looks-wise, but one of the best-selling parts that we have, in my opinion, is our people. And if you go to any large city, you'll understand what I'm saying, that it's not a hi, how are you doing type things when you run into a stranger in a large city like it is here. So our people is our best selling point in this community, and we need to work on getting things here around that and as a selling point, and I think that we will go far if we do. Some of your small communities you can see are already catching on, and people from larger cities, very popular people, are coming to smaller areas to live because it is just that home style type of persons that live there. And so I'm hoping that eventually that'll catch on here as well. And so in 10 years I would like to see us grow, of course.
If you could go back and do something over during your time working in the LPD, what would you do and why?
If I could do something over, geez. Boy, I don't know. I think as any supervisor or boss that you're going to make mistakes. I mean, it's going to happen. One of the trainings that I went to is as a guy was telling me, he said, look, he said, not just me, the whole class, but he was like, your jobs are to make decisions. Those aren't always going to be the best decisions or the right decisions, but make no mistake, it is your job to make a decision. And I found later throughout the years that that's very much very accurate. You can't hold off and research something forever and not make a decision on something, trying to make the most perfect right decision you can make. There are times that you have to make a decision with what you know and what you've learned and go on. And unfortunately, I mean, I'm no different than anyone else. I've made my share of mistakes in the past. To have one that really stands out to me, not so much, but there's been numerous mistakes, that I've made in the past that hindsight 2020 would have been, hey, do something different. But and I've had those moments, but luckily, I try to make decisions, the best decision I can make with what I know at the time, and then we just have to live with that and know in ourselves that the decision I made at the time was the decision I made with what I knew and what I knew to be accurate and what I felt that was not accurate, and that's all you can do. So,
what are, other than getting what your answer was for Evan's question earlier, what are your plans for the near future of the LPD?
For the near future, well, part of my plans come from the mayor's, like he mentioned a while ago, and one of the plans that are going on now with the mayor that then becomes my plans because they're kind of given to me, you see, and that's the cleaning up of the northeast section and getting everyone to park correctly. We pretty much already have that. The people are doing a wonderful job. We've had to write very few citations up in that area, trying to clean our sidewalks up to where there's not debris and vehicles on them. And the reason for that is we're getting new roads. And with new roads, if you've ever driven on a new highway or a new road, people like new roads, they love new roads, and they like to speed on new roads. So we have to really make sure those walkways are clear before we go putting in all these new roads, because as the speeds increase, then that's going to create another problem area for us. And so we want to keep the pedestrians and the bicyclists and the people walking their dogs on the sidewalks as much as possible, because we can't be everywhere at once. We're a small department, and we understand that. And you have to know what your limitations are and what you can do as a department. And I know that if we get these roads, that we're going to have more people going up and down them. And we can sit at different areas and different places, and we can write those citations, but for every place we're sitting, there's 1,000 more intersections here in town that someone may be rolling through or what have you. So we get the more you help the people help themselves, and therefore if someone has a clear sidewalk, they're more apt to take the clear sidewalk than being in busy traffic. So, and that's without us saying anything, it's just the nature of how that will fall into play. So we're trying to fix those things now, and we're working in the northeast section, and we're hoping to just kind of work our way around to the southeast and the southwest and on and so forth until we've covered the whole city and got all of those areas cleared up better than what they are at the time. So that's one of those goes. The second is just, like what I was telling your partner here a while ago, is just improving on ourselves, maybe hoping to get some of our lost manpower back. That would bring my overtime down again some. We went from just working comp time and things of that nature a couple of years ago. When we lost those 2 officers, we had to start paying overtime. And so that has increased quite a bit. And the more officers we have, then the more I can bring that overtime down, I think. So.
What legacy would you want to leave once you're no longer the police chief of the LPD?
I hope that my legacy is that bringing the community and the police, closer together. I started and founded the Citizens Academy here, again, as to educate the public on what we do as a police officer. So that kind of captured the adults who were interested in that nature. Founded the National Night Out here in Linton that takes place at Humphreys Park every August. Again, trying to bring the community and police, together. So if I'm remembered as anything, I would like to be remembered as someone who tried to bridge that gap between the police and community.
What do you think your future plans are once you're no longer chief?
Once I'm no longer chief?
Yeah, your future plans.
I kind of done things backwards from most people. Most people have kids in their early 20s, and then their kids are raised, and they work their career, and then they work their way up and become supervisors or bosses in where they work. And mine was kind of backwards. I began chief here in my early 30s. Didn't have any children until I turned 40, and now I have 2 children. So I've kind of went as far as I can go, here in the department, and I would like to, as long as I can financially afford it, as once I leave here and retire here, is focus on family and my kids. That's kind of where my heart is now. I love spending time with my kids, and we just got a new camper, so we go spend some time camping and things. I promoted the guy underneath of me to assistant chief, so he's got the authority he needs, that if I'm not around or if I'm out of town, that he can get things done that needs to be done without actually having me here. So if I'm capable and financially capable, I've already got 21 or 2 years in here at the department, so I've met my retirement criteria. I would like to go and find something else that pays fairly decent money, but also allows me to spend time with my children. So.
This has been Evan Smock with Brooklyn Franklin. with the Linton-Stockton Student Press. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming.